Get ready for a no BS approach to health and fitness. This is NBS Fitness Radio.
All right, welcome back to NBS Fitness Radio. I am here with Jessie Pickett. Jessie is a nutrition coach here at NBS Fitness, and today we're going to talk about nutrition strategies, kind of in general, but mainly kind of focusing on the holidays since they are coming up. Cool?
Yep.
All right. So say hey to everyone, Jessie, and then hit us with your first tip.
All right. Hey, guys. So I started thinking about this, and I think that this is a topic that we all struggle with to some degree. The holidays just kind of come upon us, and you can be the most fit person the whole year, and then the holidays are here, and we all struggle with it. Some people less than others, depending on if we've been through this season several times or it's your first time really trying to get through a holiday season in a healthy manner. But ultimately, there's temptation, more so this time of year than any other time. So I really wanted to start this off by just putting a really heavy dose of reality into this and saying that there is just no magic trick when it comes to the holidays and nutrition and your fitness. There isn't. There are things that we can do and talk about, obviously, that can help, that can we can strategize to get us through the holidays without just a insane caloric intake every single day. But ultimately, we have to practice self-discipline.
Yeah.
That is what it comes down to. And I have a lot of things that I want to say on this topic, but I did want to start it off with that.
Yeah, and I think it's reality that we're governed by the laws of physics. If you intake far more calories than you consume, guess what? You're gonna put on weight.
There it is.
Probably going to be primarily in the form of body fat, right?
Yep.
Doesn't really matter whether you intake those calories in the summertime or the springtime or the wintertime. It just so happens that this is a time where, as like a society, there tends to be a higher increase in caloric options.
Yes.
Or a higher increase in high-calorie options that are just showing up more and more frequently in the home and the work place and all that kind of stuff. And so there's no way to somewhat intake all those calories without your body responding, proportionally, right?
And just because it's Thanksgiving and Christmas doesn't make the calories not real.
Yeah. Right.
Unfortunately, that is just not how it works.
So earlier you're about to tell me the average calories that someone eats on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So hit me with that.
Okay. So I was looking this up on the Consumer's Report. It says for just the Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah, just the single meal.
The meal, not the day. The average caloric intake on that meal is between 3,500 to 4,000 calories.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, just that meal. So you also have to consider that you eat before that meal. You're going to probably eat after that meal. You're going to have maybe seconds. Yeah. You're going to have dessert. You're probably going to have some drinks. So you're looking at...
Dang, so basically double most people's daily caloric need in a single meal.
In that meal.
And what was the macro breakdown?
Well, I didn't get the carbohydrates and proteins on it, but it said that typically that plate is consumed of roughly 150 grams of fat.
Okay, so 1,000 grams or 1,000 calories in fat.
Yes.
Yeah, it may make sense, but 25% fat calories, so.
Oh, so to put that in perspective, I roughly on a daily intake eat about 55 to 60 grams of fat.
Yeah, so
that's my daily.
That's your 3 times your daily.
In one plate.
Yeah. And it basically 3 times most people's daily in calories.
Yes, yes. So it definitely kind of puts it in perspective when you think, it's Thanksgiving, I'm just going to, I deserve this. Yeah. I deserve to have a day where I just don't, count anything or care. You know what? I would say, honestly, that's okay.
Yeah.
If you let it be that meal.
Yeah.
You enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Enjoy your Christmas meal.
Yeah.
But it's a holiday. It's not a holiday week.
Yeah.
And it's not a holiday month.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that is where I think our culture really gets in trouble is that, we enjoy our day, but then we have leftovers. We have a second helping or third helping. We have several desserts. We drink alcohol, during celebrations. And I mean, that's where things get dicey.
I like where you said it's a holiday and not a holiday week or a month. Yeah, I try to push back against most of the extremes. So, like, I don't think there's anything, like, socially or mentally, emotionally healthy about the person who, like, packs in their chicken breasts and rice and broccoli to the Thanksgiving meal. Like, unless you have a bodybuilding show that Saturday, which that was a terrible strategy on your part, then, like, I do believe food is this wonderful connector for relationships, and we we as human beings are built to connect to people through meals.
Yeah, sure.
And that's why, like, we see a lot of our holidays or times where we're supposed to connect with our family or neighbors around meals. Mm-hmm. But so, like, to not partake at all is probably an unhealthy extreme. Mm-hmm. But to exhibit no discipline over the month and intake all calories at all opportunities is also not a healthy choice.
Right.
So maybe let's break it down a little bit. Do you have any, like, specific tips for people, like, with regards to the individual meal, their individual day, versus, like, a bigger, like, monthly strategy?
Yeah. So the way that I see it, and this is how I practice my nutrition programming completely, is moderation over restriction. We as human beings do not like to be restricted. Yeah. So we will retaliate in one way or another. It will happen. And so I really try to practice myself and teach my clients moderation. Have it. If you want some pie, have a piece of pie. Don't have half the pie. Let's just have a piece. Oh,
I thought you were saying, you're saying don't eat half of the
don't
pie.
Have half of it.
Just what about the whole pie? That's my strategy.
Let's not go for the whole pie.
Okay.
Yeah.
A piece of pie.
A piece of pie. Have it. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Enjoy the flavor. Enjoy the taste.
Yeah. And enjoy, the togetherness it brings amongst family and friends, that you get together and eat, and you get to have those flavors for that time of the year. That's fun, and do it without guilt.
Yeah.
Like, have a good time, but moderate it. We have to be aware. Yeah. We can't just go into it with no plan, because we will have the best intentions, but if we don't put a plan in place when our intentions are at their highest, then our inhibitions
our temptations are at their at the highest, right?
Well, if we have intentions to moderate,
gotcha,
but we don't put any action step on, okay, how am I going to handle this when I am tempted? If we don't put anything in place at that time, that previous time, then we might as well just not have a plan at all. You know?
It's like the fail to plan to fail.
Yeah.
So what are some of the strategies around, like, how to kind of create some structure to resist that temptation?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things is, first, there's kind of two categories in my head. One is we got to move. Okay. So let's counterbalance the calorie intake by movement.
Gotcha.
So plan on create a family tradition that isn't circled around food.
Okay.
Go on a walk together. Yeah. Get up and do a turkey trot early on Thanksgiving morning as a family. Yeah. Go play, some flag football in the yard before you start cooking. Yeah. Something like that. Or even if it's really cold or the weather's bad, get in the living room and play, like, an active game. Something like that. Get moving, burn some calories before.
You're creating some type of deficit where, you're counteracting the extreme increase.
Yeah. Because we're all going to eat more because the food content is just heavier.
Okay, now, you think it's a better strategy to maybe try to do something beforehand or like afterwards?
I would suggest both.
Okay, a little bit, but yeah, good.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, go ahead and prep the food and get it rolling, and then play a game together as a family, or, you know, that can be when you do a little scrimmage football, and then have your meal and enjoy it, and then everyone go on a walk.
Yeah.
You know,
Also probably like breaks that cycle, like after the meal of like snacking.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that is one of the tips I was going to put in, which I'll just go ahead and say now because it's part of it, is once everyone's had their plate and has enjoyed their meal, go ahead and put it up.
Pack all the food back up,
Put it up, you know, because having it sitting out, you will go back. It's just how we're made. We're going to go back with a fork, and we're going to have some bites, and we're going to make a little plate. So go ahead and pack it up, put it in the fridge. Not only does that help just get your house clean, but it prevents you from going for a second and third plate. But so staying active, getting some kind of activity in, and creating that to be a family habit, a family tradition of that day, you know. That way your kids grow up thinking, oh, I remember, you know, we grew up playing football every Thanksgiving, or, you know.
Or it's not just on Thanksgiving, we sit around drinking, watching football, and then gorging ourselves with food all day.
Yeah, right, exactly. One thing that we do, if the weather's allows it, is we go out and rake a big pile of leaves and take turns jumping in it and doing like slow motion video, you know, just silly. But it gets us out and moving and breathing. And so that's one category of the day, is to plan for some activity.
Okay. I like it.
You know, and like I said, also look in your city and see if there's any local 5K races, or, you know, in the CrossFit community, we like to do themed workouts. Like we always do the 12 Days of Christmas workout, you know, and things like that. Look into stuff like that. And see if there's something that you can do together as a family. A lot of those things are kid-friendly. You know, I mean, you could go run a 5K with your kids, even if you're just walking.
Just walk the 5K,
Move
them across 3.1 miles, or whatever, however many miles.
Get them there some way or another. So that's one category. The other is to plan ahead on your actual caloric intake. Okay. So I'm not gonna even begin to say to try to track your food. Let's just put that to the side for that particular holiday. But don't just throw all that you know out the window either. You know, instead of going and getting a huge ladle full of each casserole, get a spoonful. Do 2 little spoonfuls of each one, which is roughly going to be about half of a cup, which is what is considered a serving for most of these casseroles.
Gotcha.
Is a 3/4 of a cup to half a cup is somewhere in the actual serving range, which is something we as Americans don't
adhere to too much.
We don't adhere to too much, so doing smaller servings.
Okay.
That way you can still get a little bit of everything. And then making sure that you get your protein in.
Okay,
You know, like still make sure, and preferably not from all the dark meat of the turkey, you know, maybe some of the white meat. But make sure you get some protein in, you know, and keep that in check. And then hydration. Really make sure that you stay on top of drinking your water.
So, when I had Jennifer Brockstrom on, I mean, this is the same strategies we would implement really for all nutrition. It's moderate calorie intake and expand caloric output. Eat less, move more, right? But maybe some she had some strategy I like for like the moderate caloric intake was they actually use smaller plates. So instead of giving someone a giant plate, they give them a smaller plate, and then you could. I was just thinking of this. You could use smaller serving size spoons. So instead of using the serving spoon, you could even use like a half cup, measuring cup, or a spoon. And she even put she would put vegetables in line, like in the order of the buffet line. It would be vegetables, proteins, then carbs at the end.
So you have less space on your plate for the carbs. All of those, awesome. Absolutely.
It's just finding ways to set yourself up for success where you have to actively try to like break the norm and overloading calories. Like having a smaller plate, it's like, look, you could ultimately go and just get 2 plates or fill your plate a foot deep.
Sure. Yeah.
But you would have to break, you would be aware of it and have to break like a norm that's going on. And I think, a lot of what we're doing is not these like conscious decisions of, I'm going to try to eat 4,000 calories today. It's just like, as a human being, like when I see tasty food, I want to consume it. I just kind of get in this habit of I just lop it on there. And then once I got it on my plate, I actively am going to eat everything that's on my plate.
Yep.
So if I can actually just limit that plate size, limit that portion size, I'll still eat everything on my plate, but ultimately it's a lower total caloric amount. Yeah.
I mean, it really could come down to being thousands of calories less.
Yeah.
And you still get the meal that you want for the holidays, that iconic meal that you're looking forward to. You still get that. You still get full. Yeah. You're just not to a point where you're so uncomfortable that then you don't want to go move.
Yeah, and maybe that's like if you're like, hey, in 1 hour we're going for a walk, or you're like, okay, I'm not going to eat myself to misery because I got to get up here and move in a second.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I mean, still trying to implement some of the things that we know, staying on top of your hydration, making sure you get your protein intake, and then just smaller portion sizes. That way you're still getting to enjoy what you got, but you're not overdoing it.
I think the hydration point also helps. I mean, different people are going to have different, struggles or different temptations. And for some people, it is specifically the food, but for others, it's the alcohol. Mm-hmm. And so, like, even just like putting in a rule of like, hey, look, you have to go 1 for 1 alcoholic drink for 12 ounces of water.
Yeah.
You're just like, even if you end up drinking 4 drinks, which is probably not, a great outcome, but it's better than 8 drinks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And at least you got water in.
You got water in. You're going to be full.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a flip side of that is like your stomach's going to be pretty full if you're drinking 4 alcoholic drinks and 4 12-ounce glasses of water. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, when it's time to eat, you'll be less likely to smash that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, there are, like I said at the beginning, there is no magic pill in this, but there are tricks that you can put into place to help you. Another thing would be to create yourself a step goal for the day. Like say, okay, I know that I'm going to eat more than I usually do today, and I definitely want a dessert. Yeah. Like I want that. I don't want to restrict myself from that. So my goal today is to walk 12,000 steps. And that way, at the very least, you're just up and moving more. Yeah. Which overall is going to just burn more calories throughout your day because you're just, every time you think to sit down, you're like, nope, I'm going to get up. I'm going to do something. Yeah.
Do you think there's any benefit to adding some type of like time restricted component to it? Like, for example, if you just said like, okay, you're just going to eat 1 meal today.
Yeah. So I thought about that. I think that is very individual to each person. Yeah.
If you have the ability to still within that meal eat a reasonable meal, but if ultimately like not eating all day causes you to like eat the 4,000 calories.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so actually in preparation for this podcast, I asked people, what do you do? I asked friends and family if they have any strategies and things. And some people said, I know that I am going to have a lot of calories in my meal, so I do try to only eat that 1 meal. And I don't know if that's the best strategy. I know other people that say, that they've done that before. They've restricted all food until the 1 big meal. Yeah. And then they ended up eating so much more than if they had just maybe eaten throughout the day, had a healthy breakfast, had some water, got up, maybe went on a jog, and then came back and had a Thanksgiving or a Christmas meal and, carried on that way. So I think that is more individual to the person.
Yeah, agreed. This is something I've been implementing a bit, And I mean, admittedly, I tend to lean towards a more extreme approach to things, but that's like kind of my personality works well with that. But I do a post semi-fast. I mean, like, let's say we had Thanksgiving lunch. I might eat whatever in that meal, but I would maybe fast 24 hours after the meal. Like I wouldn't eat till 2:00 the next day.
Yeah.
Or I may fast the entire next day and I eat till the following morning. Now, I think one is like mentally, how are you set up for that? Some people are not set up well for that. And two, physically, how are you set up for that? Because if your body does not if you are have a history of over-consuming carbohydrates and your body cannot is not well adapted to oxidize lipids well, like you may be really freaking hungry that next day.
You might, or have a major crash.
Yeah, which makes
sugar
it, which I don't typically suffer from that, so I can go all day. And so it's like the reason I ask is, this is a strategy I've implemented, but I don't typically suggest it for a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that if somebody asks, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, sure, because any advice or idea is, I think very helpful. But for it to be a general overall suggestion, I think it really depends on the person and where they're at.
Yeah. I know it's just like that's an extreme approach. You should probably be able to implement the less extreme approach first.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So those were a couple of things. Those are kind of your basics of the day.
Okay.
Pick up more activity, create a step goal, and then moderate your actual portion sizes, and go into it knowing that's the general idea is going into the holidays with the strategy, with a plan and knowing,
I think it's also worth noting that, like, ultimately, in the big picture of things, a Thanksgiving meal or a Christmas meal, or both, both, shouldn't knock you off. I mean, realistically, you could eat 10,000 calories in that single meal, and if everything else is in place the rest of the week, where you're eating intelligently and you exercise regularly, it's going to do nothing to you.
Yeah.
It's, because ultimately that's like 0.2% of like your entire.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
It's just when a blowout Thanksgiving meal is combined with a not so great month where calories have already gone up and activity has gone down, and that is also paired with maybe something that kicks off in January where you don't go to the gym for 2 weeks. These are the death by 1,000 cuts that kind of like tend to add up. I remember hearing a statistic one time that was like, generally speaking, most Americans do not actually overeat calories on a daily basis. Some people do, and some people do it by a lot, but, those people are 400 pounds.
Right.
Like if you're like over consuming by 500, 1,000 calories on the daily, you're going to be very obese and very heavy.
Right.
What tends to happen is most people kind of undereat at breakfast and then have a sugary snack and maybe have a undereat not enough at lunch and then have like a very high calorie but low nutritious like dinner.
Yeah. I'd say that's very common.
So what has ended up happening there is like ultimately calorically they've eaten about their caloric baseline. But what's happened is nutritionally it's completely off balance. But so what ends up happening with that is metabolically there's negative impact. They lose muscle mass. They really kind of don't oxidize fat well. Their A1C, their glucose disposal is bad. But like weight wise, they're kind of just trending pretty normal throughout the year. Then there may be a period of time in the summer, or like for some people it's the summer, for some people it's the fall. Maybe in the fall they go and tailgate on the reg, so that their alcohol consumption increases, their calorie consumption increases, or maybe it's the holidays, where there's like this 2 month where they go from eating about their normal caloric intake to on a regular like basis over consuming calories, and they put on 1 to 2 pounds. Mm-hmm. But they just do this over 20 decades.
Right.
And so over 20 decades where you've had a loss of 5 to 10 pounds of muscle mass, and you've had a gain of 30 to 50 pounds of body fat, you're 30, 40 pounds overweight, you're obese on the body fat scale. And it's, again, it wasn't this like, oh yeah, I'm like eating ice cream by the bucket every night.
No, yeah.
It's just you ate the normal American diet, which essentially is going to make you overweight, obese by the time you're 40, 50, 60.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens to people.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the blind trick, if you will, because people think, well, I eat all right. I don't overeat. I don't do too bad, and it's like, but nutritionally, it's very, very poor, and
but see, like if that was true, then we would have data to show that's true.
Yeah.
Like if you ate well, you would have a body composition and blood work that showed that you ate well.
Right.
We can look at the data and show incorrect answer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like something went wrong.
It's just like you're not actively shoving your face full of like terrible food on a regular basis. But that's like, again, it's that like death by 1,000 cuts. It's like, how do we ultimately end up being where 80% of the population's overweight? It's because every year over the holidays, you put on 1 pound or 2 pounds. And
I mean, you think about that. You gain, let's say 2-3 pounds around Thanksgiving, and maybe put on another 2-3 pounds around Christmas. And then you don't really lose the weight, but you don't really gain any more weight throughout the year, and you do that for 10 years. Well, there's 50, 60 pounds, so it's like it is very slow, and it creeps in. Before you even know it, you realize like, whoa, I have gotten in some bad habits, But I mean, that's kind of where I wanted to segue is, so we've talked about specifically that day, some strategies that you can take, but more importantly, I think zooming out a little, just the general holiday season. That's where we kind of get in trouble because people bring sweets to work. If you have kids, you're doing gingerbread houses and Christmas cookies and,
school parties, work parties.
Yeah, there's parties all the time. And there's hot cocoa. And I actually did look up the average Starbucks coffee, like a gingerbread latte or the eggnog latte that's come out.
Spice.
Yeah, your what has become just an icon. In the holiday season, these tall, which is the smallest cup you can get at Starbucks.
It's the most confusing.
Yeah, I don't know how that occurred, but which most people don't order. I don't know very many people that get a tall.
Most people get. Was it tall, grande?
And then venti.
Venti's the biggest? Okay.
But I believe what I read is an average cup without any substitution of Starbucks drinks is roughly between 350 to 400 calories.
Yes, golly.
For that 1 cup of coffee. So you think, I'm going to treat myself.
Yeah.
You know what? Okay. Have one a year.
Yeah.
Let that be
the treat over the year.
The treat for that year. Yeah. Go have your pumpkin spice latte for the whole season.
Yep.
So
I'm trying to look up how many calories is in eggnog.
Oh boy.
Because it's like eggnog is whole milk, whole eggs, whipping cream, sugar. I'm trying to think of what else is in there.
I think that's enough.
Oh yeah, I mean, but it's liquid cake. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd be more interested to know the fat content.
350 calories in eggnog. Yeah, there you go. And that's I wonder if that's including...
Is that for an 8-ounce cup?
8-ounce cup, 350 calories, 20 grams fat, 35 grams carbs, 10 grams protein. But I don't know if that's including alcohol.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. That's probably just regular
I think
eggnog.
That's just regular old eggnog without any alcohol in it.
So that 1 8-ounce cup of eggnog is half of my fat intake for the day.
Yeah.
And not very many people drink 8 ounces.
Yeah.
You know, none of our cups are even made to, you know, like a coffee mug is.
That's like a teacup. You know, that's like a little sippy teacup.
Yeah, that's something you'd get in like your kids' play tea set.
That's right.
You know, but
yeah, you're probably drinking 10, at least 10, if not 16 ounces. You're talking 700 calories.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, no one drinks 8 ounces. That's the other thing. Is you're like, oh, okay, 350 calories. I could maybe work that in if I really wanted it. But you're most likely not having the portion size or the serving size.
You had a third of your calories in eggnog, or pump or whatever candy cane coffee.
Yeah, right. So I was looking into it. If you do want to enjoy a Starbucks or just a coffee house, novelty coffee like that, the substitutes that you would make would be to switch out the whole milk or the half and half the heavy cream for skim. Which I know a lot of people don't like to do, but that right there is a significant amount of fat that you're cutting down. And then to also ask for a substitution, they use flavored syrup. You know, the pumps. Typically a tall cup of coffee at Starbucks has 3 pumps. Ask for 1.
Yeah, just give me 1 pump.
Or ask for sugar-free syrup, because they have that.
Like, do they have the sugar-free, like, whatever, peppermint flavor?
You'd have to ask. I know that they have it in general stuff like vanilla and hazelnut and certain things like that. They have the sugar-free in that. I don't know about the specific flavors, but
I just wonder, like, I mean, most of the things come with like whipped cream on it.
Right. So, and also, forego the topping.
Okay.
The whipped cream on top. You know, I mean that. And I mean, does that even make a difference? You know, I don't know. I don't. Maybe it does. Maybe
I mean,
people
to the
really
flavor?
like that. Yeah.
Well, sure, because I mean, you just
It's on top.
Well, you stir it into it. Okay. Well, I think I saw a meme that was like, you know, it's like it's like Becky says she loves coffee. It's like shows like Becky with the Starbucks with the whipped cream and like this chocolate drizzle. It's like, no, Becky, you love dessert.
Like, exactly.
Yeah, that's not coffee. That's
Right.
That's dessert. Like,
Yeah.
You know, if you like coffee, you probably wouldn't be opposed to drinking some black coffee,
Right.
Or some coffee with stevia.
Just a little cream or
A
something.
little tiny packet of creamer. Like when we have to do the 3 pumps of syrup with the whipped cream.
Half the can of whipped cream.
That's the exact same that's the exact same strategy with in a restaurant when they give you the dessert. It's like whipped cream and then chocolate drizzle.
Yeah, so just foregoing some of that or swapping out and substituting some things really can make a difference if you want to go and have that cup of coffee and that dessert.
How do you feel about like maybe like this strategy like earn it?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like hold yourself to, okay, cool, like you have to do this workout at this certain output, you know, or like, okay, well this week you have to get 6 workouts in. If you get 6 workouts in, on Saturday, after your 6th workout, you can go get, you know, a tall specialty coffee.
That's right. Yeah, I think that would be a huge incentive to create little goals for yourself so that you can reward yourself with, you know, I mean, maybe not make the reward food
Always.
all the time.
But if it's like, hey, this is the season, and hey, man, they got pumpkin spice what are they called? Pumpkin spice lattes for 6 weeks. I want one, but I gotta earn it.
Yeah.
So this is the week I'm gonna earn it. And maybe if I goof it this week, you know, I got next week to make it up.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think that would be a really smart thing, and that's the next thing I was wanting to say is going into the holidays, knowing that all the things that go into the holidays, you know. I mean, it's more than just the day, and we know that. It would be naive of us, there it is, to think that it's just on one day, you know. But the season itself presents desserts and sweets and parties all the time, the whole season. And so creating a strategy to sit down, I tell this to my clients all the time. Sit down with whatever you use as your schedule, whether it's a planner, a calendar, your phone, and plug in when you're going to work out.
Yeah.
Because the holidays get busy and things come sooner than you think, and before you know it, you've only worked out one day that week instead of your usual 4 or whatever it may be. So be a little bit more strategic in your plan. Write down your workouts, have a plan, and reward yourself for it. With whatever it may be.
And I wonder, like, that's probably also just like a good note is a lot of the pressures we feel from the holidays are really like, it's a marketing pressure. From being a capitalist and free market society. Like, it's like this pressure to go to say yes to every holiday party, or to make it to every kids event, or to give your kids like this special gift, or like make sure everyone gets the perfect little gift, and like participate in every little thing that's going on. And like ultimately there's like this pressure to say yes to all that, and this kind of like false nobility and like self-sacrifice. It's like, I'm doing it for my family, I'm doing it for my kids. I'm like, ultimately you being unfit, unhealthy, and like limited, being stressed out.
The stress.
It ain't good for anyone.
No.
Like, I mean, like, I think there's times where it's, you just feel like, nah, like, hey, look, I got to work out today, and I made it to all these other kids' things. Like, I'm not going to this one. I'm going to go work out today because I need this. And to kind of like recognize that there's probably a need to kind of push back against like some of the social pressures of the holiday season. Like, generally speaking, if like you look out and you're like, I'm kind of doing the same thing as everyone else, that should be kind of all right, I kind of feeling the same way as everyone else about the holidays. Like, oh, you guys are stressed out, I'm stressed out too. Like, that should be a ding. You shouldn't be running with this flock. You know, like that you should probably be swimming a little bit backstream here. So that should be kind of an indication. Like, I'm gonna push back against this a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that learning the art of saying no is important in just general mental health. But especially the pressures of the holidays. It's a lot. And social media just creates like, I gotta post that my kids are at every single holiday thing in the city, and I gotta get the perfect outfits, and why do we gotta do this? We don't, and so
the kids don't give a shit.
They don't.
The kids do not care about this thing, about how their friends' parents perceive you. They do not care.
No. And ultimately, if this is true for me, I know this is true for most. I don't recall the gifts I got when I was a kid, but I do remember waking up and my mom bouncing around the kitchen, making us hot cocoa, and excited about, she would like put our gifts in little piles. And we would each have, I remember her attitude. I remember her presence. Do I remember those gifts? No. And do I even remember what we did that holiday? No, but I remember her being there. And I
remember those fun like holiday traditions and like being with family. It's like ultimately if you are so distracted, so stressed out, so ultimately like unhealthy, unfit, is going to create higher levels of stress and lower levels of energy and less ability to connect. Like ultimately you're limiting what the holidays are truly about. You know? And so like you said, like your kids, I've made this statement, like I remember being at my grandparents a lot. I don't remember doing anything with my grandparents. Like a lot of kids are gonna like have that statement with regards to their parents currently. It's like, I don't know. We didn't really have any holiday traditions. I don't know. My parents were always kind of stressed out around the holidays. My parents kind of just drank a lot on the holidays. I just remember them kind of like
sitting around.
Sit around not doing shit
Yeah.
and drinking.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's probably not the legacy you want to live.
No.
Or leave.
Yeah, and I mean, and it does come in reducing your fitness and increasing your food. It does. I mean, what you put in your body is going to affect your sleep, your hormones, your blood sugar, your mood, and then not working out. You're not exerting your energy. You're not getting, the release that you need in your given day. I mean, it provides so much more than just your the physical aspect, but the mental aspect is huge, especially in a high stress time like the holidays provide.
You need the buffer of physical fitness to be able to take that on like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So there's just so much more to it than people think.
100%.
Like working out isn't just, I just need to go get this in, because I want, bigger biceps.
I want to look in a bathing suit.
Yeah. I mean, those desires are fine, but that is not what this is all about. I mean, not even in the slightest.
Yeah.
And I tell that to my clients all the time. If you aesthetically want to look better, great, okay. But that motivation is not going to get you very far.
Yeah.
It's got to be deeper than that. And for most people it is.
Yeah.
And so it just comes with going into the holidays knowing that you're going to have a little bit more stress.
Yeah.
Things are going to be busier. Temptation's going to be higher with food and saying no to your working out, things like that. All that is just a given.
Yeah.
And we know that's the case. So going into it with a strategy.
Go through a strategy like, I'm going to prioritize this, putting it in my calendar
Yeah.
this is as important as any other thing I would have. It's rock solid. I don't get moved.
Yeah. I think that those are really the biggest takeaways, is just going into it with a plan.
Yeah.
And it's going to take self-discipline just as it does the whole rest of the year.
Yeah.
This isn't a time to just throw out all the hard work that we put into our habit formations, our lifestyle changes, our fitness, progress that we've made. We just don't throw it out the window because it's the holidays.
It's maybe like another way to look at it is like this is what you've been training for.
Yeah.
This is why we put all those habits in place beforehand, right?
Right, exactly.
So that you can take it through the holidays and get through it, and come out the other side. Like, yeah, that was great. I enjoyed the holidays. I had a great time with my family. I enjoyed some good food that was super tasty. I kept my fitness and my health and my sanity.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it again. You know what I mean? Let's go another year.
Yeah.
What about any strategies for maybe the workplace? Or just like your previous life as a nurse.
Yeah.
Not exactly known for the greatest of workplace treats.
Yeah, so I did think about this before this conversation, and I wish that I could come up with something a little bit more creative than this, but ultimately you just gotta say no.
Yeah.
You do. And if you know that your break room is gonna be full of stuff, then go eat somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's
the same strategies.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's just more.
Yeah.
This time of year is all there really is to it. It's the same stuff, but a lot of people like to bring their leftovers up to work so that it's not at their house.
Yeah.
And then, when I worked as a nurse, I worked in mother-baby for a long time, and as the thank you gift to the nurse, they would give us cookies and donuts, and that was very common to have that. Every once in a while, we'd get one of those edible arrangements, and I was like, yes,
fruit.
Some fruit.
Or vegetables. I've heard the stories of the nursing break room. There was this everyone's always having some type of birthday. Every week someone has a birthday. So there's always some type cake, pie, cookie, whatever in there.
Always.
You're always getting thank you gifts,
Uh-huh.
which is almost exclusively sugary foods.
Always.
You're also usually stressed to the max and not having any time to eat. So ultimately someone's like, want me to order pizza? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And so it's I think nursing is in the top 3 most overweight professions.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Do we wonder why that is?
I know, it's so sad. We're supposed to promote health. And
it's ass backwards because it's the health industry.
Yeah.
The healthcare industry.
I do have a client that he he has a workplace similar to that, where he's got a break room that is constantly full of treats, and he has created an entirely new routine for his lunch. He does not go in there. He puts his lunch in a separate refrigerator, and I know that's not, you don't have that access everywhere you go, but
you can take a cooler. I mean, there's options.
There's other things you could do. Yeah, absolutely. And you go and you eat somewhere else. I used to actually eat outside in the courtyard at one of the hospitals I worked at. Because the break room was just, it's too easy to go grab a cookie or go grab a donut.
Well, it's one, you obviously have like the physical temptation of it just being there. You have to look at it, say no to it on a regular basis. You just have the social temptation. And like people, misery loves company, and that's not really what's happening. But like, people are going to push you to engage in the same activities that they are, and sometimes more so if they know it's not great. Come on, just have a cookie. I mean, not everyone's like that. Some people are like, no big deal, but like, in the space of it, it's typically what I meant is someone is going to push a little more than is like reasonable. Come on, you can have a cookie.
It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time. Have a cookie. And then there must be a guy would say like, you're like, no, thank you. No, I'm good, thank you. And then like they push, and you just like ultimately you have to be a dick and be like, hey, look, man, my health and fitness is important to me, so I'm not gonna. My answer is still no. And then they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then
so
you're
the
like,
outcast.
Yeah, it's like, man, if I can ultimately avoid having to fight those battles, then it's the best. You always win the fights you don't engage in, right?
So I mean, I wish that I could provide a better piece of advice on that, but ultimately it just comes down to like, you have to work, you have to be there. So know that there's going to be temptation and just avoid it. I mean, find another route, find another routine that you get in for lunch or something.
Well, I think it all comes down to like, know your goals, have a strong like why behind those goals. And so that it causes you to set a strategy beforehand so that one, you're limiting the amount of temptations you face, and then you've also got a good battle plan when you face those temptations. Can be finding a different place other than the break room. Could be it could be eating some type of, having at your desk some type of healthy snack to engage with, whether it be like a vegetable tray or even like beef jerky. It'd be better for me to eat this beef jerky if I'm really hungry now than have to get up, walk to the break room, and go, choose between brownies and cookies.
Right.
So those, and I mean, I think ultimately, the average person is just like, guess what? You don't have any strategies. So that's where we're working with a coach, having a guide who not only has walked down that path themselves, but has walked hundreds or thousands of other people down that path, is going to have a multitude of strategies to be able to put in place. And that's like ultimately where a guide is helpful. Having a nutrition coach is helpful. It's just like, you know how to eat right. But there's a reason you don't.
Right. There's very rarely a time that I have a client walk into the office and have no idea how to eat properly. That is very rarely the case. I know how to eat, I just don't, and it's like, okay, and that's why I'm here as your nutrition coach, because it is not for a lack of knowledge, it is for a lack of guidance. They have accountability, and just knowing in strategy, and knowing how to properly implement it into your daily living. And that's really the struggle, more so than like, oh, I didn't know that this donut was that big. It's not the case typically.
Typically. Well, and then let's paint two different pictures. So the one is, I know I'm going to overeat on Thanksgiving, or I know the temptations are going to face me on Thanksgiving. And so I'm just going to try my best. How many times has that worked in the last 20 years? 0. Cool. Okay. Usually the same strategy that's lost.
Good strategy.
Lost 0 times. Versus with a nutrition coach who says, Okay, let's kind of talk about what your past history has been. Okay. Well, let's talk about like what are like the foods that you love over Thanksgiving? Like where do you typically kind of have these issues? Da da da. And then nutrition coach may say, okay, well, here's the thing. We're gonna find you your own particular plate. Mm-hmm. Show me that plate. Take a picture of it, send it to me. Okay, cool. That's your plate. Cool? Got it. All right. Now show me the spoon that you're going to use to give yourself servings. Mm-hmm. Cool. That's your spoon. Got it? Got it. All right. Here's what I want you to do. On that plate, we're going to draw a line. And this half of the plate is protein. Mm-hmm. This quarter of the plate is vegetables. This quarter of the plate, that's your carbs. Cool? Cool. All right, now I want you to take a picture of your plate and send it to me like before you eat it. That may be extreme, but like that's where like the guidance comes in. It's like, one, you probably never would have thought of that strategy. And two, even if you read that strategy on the internet, would you have ever implemented it? No. Right. But because a coach is saying, explain to me exactly what you're going to do, mm-hmm. or show me you doing it. We're going to talk about this. Like that's where the guidance and the accountability pair together. Yeah. So where you ultimately have a successful Thanksgiving.
You have a plan.
You have a plan in place. You were held accountable to following that plan. Mm-hmm. You were supported in that plan. Because that's the other thing. Maybe you go to your house. Someone's like, why are you eating off your own plate, you weirdo? Yeah. But if you know, like, on Friday and Monday, I get to go see my nutritionist or like talk to my nutrition coach, and she's gonna say like, hey, I'm proud of you, did a good job. That's a more powerful pull than like maybe that social pressure of like, why are you eating off this tiny plate, weirdo? Yeah. You might cater to it.
Yeah. I mean, and I think also having a nutrition coach, I sit down with my clients and we get into the nitty gritty. Yeah. We talk about the deep why of why that person wants to improve their health. Yeah. And it is a multitude of different reasons. Yeah. And it's easy for that why to kind of float off to the distance when you get tempted or you get consumed in social, events. And so my job as a nutrition coach is to keep that why very forefront in your vision all the time. Yeah. And to let my client know, like, hey, I hear you. Like, you were in my office crying because you do not like the way you feel. Yeah. And so I am here to keep you accountable. Even like, when your friends and your family, they might not do that, not because they don't care, but because they don't know. Yeah. And I care, and I do know, and I'm going to be here. And this plate of food is not worth another sit down of you crying with me. It's not worth you feeling awful. Yeah. I mean, it's food. Yeah. Food is a wonderful thing, and it brings people together, and I fully, agree with all that. But ultimately, it's food. Yeah. And the togetherness, your health, the way you feel, your attitude, your presence amongst your family, that's what's important. Yeah. And we just kind of get blinded. Yeah.
That's when food serves its actual purpose versus when people use it like a drug. Yeah. Which is, what people tend to do.
Yeah, like absolutely. Yeah, and so, I mean, that is a huge benefit to having a nutrition coach, especially during tempting times. Yeah. Between the holiday season and then the summer when people are traveling. Yeah. That's another time that having a nutrition coach and having that accountability is huge. Mm-hmm. I've had clients over the summer who they've gone on 2 or 3 different vacations and they've still come in and they're dropping body fat. Yeah. They're still making progress even in the midst of moments where they've gone out to eat and they've gone to weddings and parties because they're creating habits. Yeah. And they're working hard, because they have a plan. Did they miss out on their vacation? No.
They had a good time, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. They made it to all their events and they feel great doing it now, know. So, there are a lot of techniques that can be put into play. And, having a nutrition coach or having the accountability and someone to be like, hey, you know what? Okay, we're going into this season. These are the things that you want to do. All right, let's do them, but let's put some tactics in place. Let's have a plan and let's stick to it.
Yeah.
And you're going to come out of this still having a great holiday, enjoying your time with your kids and your family, but not feeling awful mentally or physically. Yeah. And feeling actually good, feeling proud of yourself for sticking to your plan through a time that you typically throw everything out the window.
You committed to something, you did it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's kind of the ultimate trick, right? Get yourself a nutrition coach.
That's where it seemed to go. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. It is true.
All right, Jess, thanks for coming on the MBS Fitness Radio podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, MBS Fitness Radio out.
Thank you for listening to NBS Fitness Radio. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, follow us on social media, and check out our website at www.nbsfitness.net. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more NBS Fitness Radio.